What is going on, everybody? Kyle Long back with you again. Happy Monday. Another episode of Pushing the Pile. And Mike's still enjoying married life, honeymooning, checking out the world with his beautiful bride. Congrats to Mike again. A less of a golf clap this time because we've done this before for Mike. So we've got PTP predecessor John Breech here, and we are going to get into the nitty-gritty of some of the drafting of offensive teams in the NFL. So stick around for that. But first off the ball, we've got a few things I want to quick hit you with. Aaron Rodgers, obviously this is old news at this point, but what's your immediate and quick reaction to Aaron Rodgers signing with the Steelers?
My immediate and quick reaction is that this is an upgrade over anything the Steelers have had since Ben Roethlisberger retired. When you look at their starters since 2022, whether Mitch Trubisky, Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, you just go down that long list. I feel like if you play for the Steelers, you feel a lot better about having Aaron Rodgers in your corner than one of those other guys. Maybe he only has a little bit left in the tank, but you know what? It's 1 year, Kyle, so I feel like every player is going to be playing. It's not just the last dance like the Michael Jordan thing. It's the only dance. You get one chance with Rodgers if you're the Steelers, so you're just kind of back against the wall. You know this is the year that it's going to have to happen. Or you're starting back at square one with a new quarterback next year. And obviously, even if they win Super Bowl, that will probably still happen. But I think this is a huge upgrade, even if Aaron Rodgers is only half the quarterback he used to be.
Yeah, the difference between all those guys you named and Aaron Rodgers is they are win with guys, win because of Aaron Rodgers. That's what they're hoping to get in Pittsburgh. One guy that you can win with is Jaire Alexander, but the Packers have parted ways, releasing the stud cornerback, Jaire Alexander. Obviously, this has been a rocky marriage, but with a guy that talented, we're all interested. What's going to happen next for Jaire Alexander?
Yeah, this was a little bizarre, just I guess maybe the timing, because you look at what's happened, kind of transpired this offseason, was that he was on the trading block and the Packers couldn't find anyone to take him. And I'm guessing because he had a high salary and has been dealing with pretty much nonstop injuries for the past 2 seasons. He hasn't been able to stay on the field. And so it's a huge risk for any team to take on. And when you can't find a trade partner for a guy you don't really want, what happens? Maybe you ask him to take a pay cut or you cut him. So that's what happens here. I do think he's going to land on his feet because he's under 30. It's hard to find a good corner in the NFL. So I don't think he'll be a free agent for long, but it'll be interesting to see how healthy he is because the closer he is to 100%, the more likely he is, the quicker to get a job.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of teams are going to be lining up and fan bases going to be lining up to get Jaire Alexander and their colors. And one guy that a few years ago, if I were to tell you that he signed with your team, you would have been ecstatic. Nick Chubb, running back, 7-year Cleveland Brown. He's got a new home now, signing with the Houston Texans. Now, this one's near and dear to me because my career was cut short by massive injuries. And so I tip my cap and I respect greatly the rehab process and coming back time after time that Nick Chubb has shown us. I'm excited for a new chapter in Houston and, knock on wood, everything goes smoothly physically because when he is right, he is a tank with which you can win the war. Interested to hear your thoughts here, Breech.
Yeah, you know what's crazy is that you obviously play a position where you're getting beat up all the time. So when you're dealing with injuries, that can't be easy. And same thing with Nick Chubb. If you're a running back and you're getting hit every play, I'm sure there's a mental part of that when you're in the process of making that comeback. But really, look, the Texans are out here just collecting AFC North running backs. We already saw them get Joe Mixon a couple years ago. Now they have Nick Chubb. We don't know what the money is here, but as long as it's not a huge amount of money, this is a low-risk signing. It almost feels like they're giving him kind of that prove-it deal. Hey, why don't you come out here, show us you still have something left in the tank. But if he does have anything, this is huge because Nick Chubb, when he is peak Nick Chubb, is a very, very good running back.
Yeah, and so often we've seen, and, just this past week I was talking about it with Aaron Rodgers, we give the benefit of the doubt to position players who are coming back from these injuries. Now, the one he had was gruesome, and the extent of it was, exponentially worse than the ones that I'm discussing, like the Aaron Rodgers injury. But we give people the benefit of the doubt, and sometimes while you're in that 12-month, 24-month, we're giving this guy the benefit of the doubt phase, you forget that they exist. And that's the reality of being in the locker room, too. So for a guy like Nick Chubb, I'm so happy he gets to reintroduce himself on the field, but also in a new locker room because none of those guys that were with him at the end in Cleveland knew him as Nick Chubb, except for Myles Garrett and a handful of guys that were there before. But he gets to reintroduce himself. That's a special thing. And we've got a special thing for you today. We're going to be doing the NFL offensive draft. So which attack will go number one? We're essentially making predictions on who we think is going to shake out as the top team, who we think is going to shake down as the bottom team in the offensive ranks this year. Stick with us. I got John Breech for the NFL offensive draft coming up next.
I mean, can't you see it? The game is evolving. Records are breaking, and the stars are shining. Here on CBS Sports Network.
Welcome back. I'm Kyle Long. This is John Breech. We're going to do the drafting of NFL offenses here. We got about 25 minutes, 30 minutes for this thing. So we're going to be relatively quick, but we're going to get this out of the way. I'm going to let you do the honors here with the first pick in the NFL offensive draft.
Wow, I appreciate it. I didn't think I was just going to come on the podcast and get the first pick, but I will absolutely take it. I'm not going to turn it down. Now, the interesting thing here, if this was a quarterback draft, it is a no-brainer. I take Patrick Mahomes number one overall. I don't think anything about it. But when you look at an entire offense, it's not just the quarterback. I've got to think about the receivers, the offensive line, the running backs, maybe even the coach calling the plays. There's so much that factors into it. And so with that in mind, I am taking the Baltimore Ravens with my number one overall pick. This is a team that I think they averaged the most offensive yards per game last year. They were third in points per game. Obviously, Lamar Jackson, the most electrifying player in football. Derrick Henry. They signed DeAndre Hopkins. And even if he's only half the DeAndre Hopkins he used to be, if he can stay healthy, that's a pretty good signing. They just gave an extension to Rashad Bateman. So, Kyle, am I surprising you here with the Ravens going?
Dude, I love that pick. And I had you penciled in as a Bengals guy, you know? So I had a bunch of trash talk ready for the Cincinnati Bengals, but how the turntables, because I'm going to have to pick the Bengals with the second pick. And I love everything you said about the Ravens, and they were the number one offense last year. And I can't remember back to the time that a team did number one back-to-back years, but if there was ever a guy that I think could be responsible for that type of feat, it's Lamar Jackson. And with the right side of that offensive line developing and continuing to grow together with Falele and Rosengarten, their right tackle, they are a purple tsunami. A lot of fun to watch that offense, and with the ball handling and the real threat of Derrick Henry, who was just getting $30 million Breech. Come on, he's earning it. So the number two pick, Cincinnati Bengals, three-headed monster, health question marks and developmental question marks for me. With Amarius Mims, how much better is he going to get? Because as an offensive lineman, I watch him and I say, my God, God touched him. Mom, Dad, and God. Those are the three guys that Amarius Mims, the three people Amarius Mims should thank every day when his size 18 feet hit the floor. He should be thanking them because he's touched, he's gifted. If he continues to develop, this offense truly is going to be even more dangerous than it was last year. I need the left tackle, my buddy, to stay healthy over there. And if those two things happen, the Bengals could be at the top of the board offensively. They could get to the dance without a defense. If the defense just sneezes a little bit, they're going to be in the dance.
Yeah, you know what? I obviously love that pick as the ultimate Bengals homer. And I will say that I did think about taking them first overall. And the deciding factor did end up being the offensive line. Look, we know the Bengals have question marks on the offensive line. As you said, if Marius Mims turns the corner this year, then this could be a great offensive line. Joe Burrow actually be protected. But for now, just a couple question marks, especially in the guard spots. All right, I guess we are going the third overall pick. Oh, man, this one's tough. But I'm going to stick in the AFC. I'm going to go. We've got two AFC teams so far. I'm going to go with the Bills. I think we got the reigning MVP, Josh Allen. You look at that offense. I know there are a few question marks with James Cook, who apparently is just not going to show up this year until they give him a new contract. And if that were to linger on into training camp and he doesn't show up for that, then maybe my mind changes a little bit. But for now, they are, to me, the third best offense. They don't have quite the weapons of the other teams we just talked about, the Ravens and Bengals, because you're looking at Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakur. They don't have that name brand receiver. But when you have Josh Allen, your receivers don't have to be as great. Your offensive line doesn't have to be as great because his mobility is so good. So this one pretty much reflects on how highly I think of Josh Allen.
You know what? It's funny that you mentioned the offensive line doesn't have to be that great. You and I both know with this Bills unit, they're a pretty darn good unit. And I always talk about them in that elite class of offensive lines, particularly because they've got the two things you really want with it. So guards, you mentioned guards for the Bengals. I think that the guards are paramount. If you've got good guards, you're going to be set. Tackles, let alone both tackles being good, are a luxury. The Bills have that. Josh Allen does a great job stepping up in the pocket and then out when those tackles run people by. Special group. Question marks, Dalton Kincaid. Is he going to turn the corner? Is he going to be able to take the next step? Because my guy Pete Prisco thinks he's going to win the MVP every year. So moving on. Love the pick, by the way. Josh Allen, superhero. Seriously, a superhero. He's a guy that other guys in the NFL, they look at him and they say, man, I wish I could be like Josh.
And he just got married. He's like Renner. He's trying to steal Renner's thunder here. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, both those guys so handsome, Mike Renner, Josh Allen, and they both outkick their coverage. So I'm going to be moving on to a group that I think, this is a philosophical debate. Is it Johnny's and Joe's or is it X's and O's, Breech? There's a lot of people that would argue that it just matters who you got, not who's moving the pawns around the board. That being said, the Detroit Lions. Okay. I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions. Same guys on the field. Now we find out if it really is X's and O's or if it truly is Johnny's and Joe's. John Morton, receiver background, more of the same from this offense. This group knows how to do one thing, and it is block MFers, okay? They can block people. They can get the front side absolutely dented with Penei Sewell. They can cut off anybody, track star, second and third level on the backside with Penei Sewell. Obviously, Taylor Decker getting up there in age, but as a left tackle, you can kind of technique your way into wins. Obviously, the running game is still going to be a big staple in that offense, but I think that they're going to have a lot more passing built in as an extension of the running game. I think more explosives could happen in the passing game on these short passes. Let me get the Lions here with this pick.
Yeah, man, and the Lions are loaded. I think a lot of people forget they were the team that led the NFL in scoring last year. Obviously, they do lose Ben Johnson. That's a little bit, but all the key personnel is coming back. So as long as you don't go in there as the new offense coordinator, try and reinvent the wheel, I feel like the Lions are pretty solid. All right, at 5th overall, look, this is a guilt pick. I'm not going to lie. I can't let Patrick Mahomes fall out of the top 5. I don't know that I think the Chiefs overall are a top 5 offense, but if Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback,
the ceiling.
That's it. In good conscience, I can't let him go. So I'm going to take the Chiefs at 5, even though we could probably make an argument that there are probably 2 or 3 other offenses out there that might have made more sense in this spot. But when you have, if Travis Kelce is going to retire after the season, if this is going to be his last dance, I think we're going to see a motivated Travis Kelce. We've already seen the pictures of him working out in Florida all offseason. He seems re-energized, reinvigorated. So I think we could see a big year, even though he's getting older. Obviously, some question marks on the offensive line. You got rid of Joe Thuney. You're going to be working in a new left tackle, so you don't know how that's going to work out just yet. But again, Rashee Rice, Worthy, they've got some good receivers, and obviously Patrick Mahomes.
Well, I'm so glad that you took the Chiefs. Well, actually, it pisses me off that you took the Chiefs because I was going to take the Chiefs because, like you're saying, with all of these positions and question marks, it's a ceiling thing. It's like there is no ceiling with this roster, with this offense, because of the guys that you talked about. Rashee Rice was a true number 1 into his injury, and like at the time of his injury, he was one of the best, most dynamic playmakers in the National Football League. Xavier Worthy just started to come into his own at the end of the season. And for a while there, I thought he was too damn fast for his own cleats because he'd run these crossing routes and end up out of bounds, Breech. He'd catch the ball, couldn't get 2 feet. He's too fast. So they slowed him down a little bit with some of the concepts. I like that. And the offensive line is a group that could be even better than last year's group if they can get Josh Simmons in the building and healthy and do it the right way with him. And obviously, Kingsley's going to have the opportunity to work inside at guard if he wants to, and if he wants to compete there. Wanye Morris, still a dude that, obviously has some experience, but they're going to look vastly different up front, but they could be even better than years past. Okay. A group that's going to look different than years past, but I think that they have an opportunity to look better than years past. I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Ooh.
Now, I'm a South Florida native now. I'm on the wrong coast to cheer for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Everybody around here wears turquoise where I live. But if I was from Florida, I would root for Baker Mayfield every week and twice on Sunday because he's so much fun to watch. And it's fun to watch them develop every year as an offense because they got a new coordinator every other year. And this year, no different. And you throw in Emeka Egbuka in there at the receiver position, and it's just another guy for Baker Mayfield to utilize. And when I think about Baker, I just think about a guy who is a true competitor. The guys play hard for him. You're never out of a fight with Baker Mayfield as your quarterback. He's got that Mahomes effect where it's like, just give Baker the ball. Like, it doesn't matter what stadium you're playing in, what city you're playing in, Baker gives you a shot to win. They have stars at the quarterback, running back, receiver, offensive line positions. I love this group, and I think they're going to put up a ton of points this year.
Yeah, I think this is a sneaky good pick. I was actually thinking about taking them at 7th overall, so you just went in and stole them from me. Look, the Buccaneers, the only team in the NFL last season that finished top 4 in rushing yards and passing yards per game. And again, somehow, maybe it's because it's Baker Mayfield. Maybe it's because they're the afterthought in Florida behind the Dolphins, as you just mentioned, Kyle. But people just kind of overlook the Buccaneers, even though all they do is go out and win the NFC South every year. And here's a fun fact about that Buccaneers offense. There were 14 players that caught at least one receiving yard last season. All 14 of them are back this year. So Baker Mayfield might not have his offensive coordinator returning, but he does have every single player that he threw at least one pass to, which I think is probably gives the quarterback a lot of confidence. All right, we're going to go from Baker Mayfield at 6th overall. At 7th, I am going to take the Los Angeles Rams. I'm not sure I would have look, they got rid of Cooper Kupp, but they brought in Devontae Adams, and to me that is probably a slight upgrade because Cooper Kupp has kind of been slowing down, hasn't looked as good really the past year or two, has been kind of bogged down by injuries, whereas Devontae Adams put up huge numbers even though he played in 2 very average offenses last season with the Raiders and the Jets. So now you go to Matthew Stafford. I mean, Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams on the same team almost seems unfair. And so when I look at this offense, Kyron Williams has really come along and turned into a guy that you don't need a running back by committee because he's proven that he can be that guy in the backfield. So I love this offense. I think the Rams are going to be a Super Bowl contender, and I'm going to take them. And of course, Matthew Stafford.
Dude, that's first off, any argument that starts with because Matt Stafford, I am all in on because like you even listen to guys like Tom Brady when asked who the best throwers of the football are in the history of our game. Matt Stafford's on the very short list that's on the tip of his tongue. Speaks volumes about him, and obviously coupled with Sean McVay's excellence as a head coach, I respect his game so much. Les Snead's roster build, that group can go far. I didn't have them quite where you picked them, but I understand. I understand where you're going there. If Devontae's right,
are you saying I reached? I reached.
Not a reach. I would say it's like not a reach of the arm, but like your finger went out a little bit to go get that one. I love the Rams though. They're a blast to watch, and their defense is great. But this isn't a defensive draft. One group that I'm always going to put my money on is the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line. I will forever bet on Jeff Stoutland, and forever, now that I know that Nick Sirianni is not a fluke, bet on Nick Sirianni and this character Jalen Hurts, who seemingly gets 5 downs. It's unbelievable to watch this offense go. And while they don't need to be the explosive Cincinnati Bengals type offense week in, week out to win games, because they do have Vic Fangio and a great defense and young budding superstars on that side of the football, the offense does what it needs to do every week. And if it does find itself in a shootout, it can go up there and do that too. I like the Philadelphia Eagles. This may be my breach because you went Rams. I'm going to go Eagles here.
Well, you know what, though? I'm glad you took the Eagles because I was just thinking if the Eagles don't go in the top 10, that's the one fan base that would have sent us hate mail and just been like, we just won the Super Bowl. We have Saquon Barkley. We have 2 of the top receivers in the NFL. Why aren't we in the top 10? But now we don't have to worry about that, because they are 8th overall. All right, let's 9th overall. For me, this one is a little bit more difficult. There's about 3 teams I really like in this spot. I am going to go with, stay in the NFC East and go with the Washington Commanders.
Yep.
Look, Terry McLaurin. We all know what Jaden Daniels just did last season. Now he's going, as long as he doesn't hit that kind of sophomore slump that we saw from CJ, I don't think it will happen. He's got a brilliant play caller in Cliff Kingsbury. They traded for Deebo Samuel, and they went out and they said, look, we got a guy in a rookie contract. Let's make our offensive line better. You trade for Laramie Tunsil, who's one of the best left tackles in football. And so they've upgraded all over the place on offense. So they should be better than they were last season. And there were 4 games where they didn't punt last season. So they were really good last season. So I'm going to go Commanders at.
Damn it, Breech. And you know what?
I'm sorry.
So obviously I'm a Bears fan. And this is the point in the show. It's called a dead stop in the investment world, where if your portfolio or if your stock dips into a certain spot, the computer automatically pulls you out of ownership. Well, the dead stop for me on picking the Chicago Bears was when either the Bears came up in my power ranking or the Commanders went. So now my dead stop has been activated. Give me the Chicago Bears. Ben Johnson, brilliant. Caleb Williams, wildly talented. Roma Dunze is a superstar laying in wait that wasn't utilized to the maximum of his potential last year. Colston Loveland, I think, has one of those Sam Laporta type years for the Chicago Bears. The safety blanket, he gets to flex a lot of muscles in Ben Johnson's offense. I love this team. You know, this is the time that it changes, Breech. And this is the time that Bears brass hit the home run in the hiring process. They got the pick right. Jaden Daniels would have been the right pick as well, but you're not wrong with either of these guys. I love your Commanders pick. I don't think he has a sophomore slump. I think they did get better. But I think the issue with Washington is that they were in the NFC Championship, and those expectations are sky high. It's tough to repeat that act. But for the Bears, last year there was a lot to be desired, and you're going to see this offense really show out this year. I got them at, what is this, number 9, number 10?
Yeah, 10th overall, top 10. They're in the top 10.
Love that.
Usually I would say this is a huge homer pick. And you've got to be a celebrity here because we've got multiple Bears fans working with us at CBS Sports. And so before you were here, all we heard over here was, this is the Bears year. This is the Bears year. Just like you said, I think this might actually finally be the Bears year.
Yeah.
But I'll be the independent guy here, and I'll agree with you. Look,
okay.
Ben Johnson, he looks like he's trying to do the same thing he did in Detroit. You just revamping the offensive line. Just so brilliant after Caleb Williams just got beat up so bad last year. Give him some time to throw. He looks good. So I don't think this is that crazy. I thought I had the Bears in the top 15 on my list, so I think getting them at 10th overall isn't a homer reach. You could absolutely make the argument that they belong here. 11th, I'm going to go with the San Francisco 49ers.
These are great picks, Breech.
Look, there's a lot of question marks here. We don't know what Brandon Ayuk's going to look like coming off his injury. Brock Purdy struggled when he didn't have all his superstars to throw to. We don't know what Christian McCaffrey is going to look like after being hobbled all season. So there are so many question marks. But again, as like you were talking about.
But if they're right.
Exactly. The ceiling. You talked about it with the Chiefs. The ceiling's high.
I love that pick so much, and it pisses me off because I thought I was smart guy, Johnny Smart Guy, putting the 49ers in here in my next power ranking. But it was you. It was you that was a smart guy all the time. Et tu, Brute. Okay, so with the next one, this is one of those if teams, and they find themselves just outside the top 10, and I'll probably hear about this, the Dallas Cowboys.
Ooh.
Okay? I can't help but watch when it's Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. You know what I'm saying? When they're on and they're in prime time, like there's no better thing to watch than Dak Prescott out there competing his butt off. They've got an offensive line that had 2 rookies out there on the offensive line last year. So they're second-year players. They will make a big jump. They obviously just drafted Tyler Booker. I think is a face eater. He's a monster in there at the guard position. They're going to be a lot better. I don't think Dak has to fall off. I think CeeDee Lamb's got the chops, as Adam Shine says, my host on Tops. And obviously, let's face it, if George Pickens is right, this offense is going to be a nightmare for defensive coordinators and secondaries.
Yeah, and you look at what the Cowboys have done. Yeah, they had Brandon Cooks for a few years, but they didn't have a strong number 2 guy. And so I think that's going to change things dramatically for that offense because now, if you're double teaming CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens is a legitimate threat to do damage on the other side. So I like it. And you know what? Let's just do the Texas 2-step here. I'll stay in Texas and I'll go with the Houston Texans at 13th overall. I think when you look at what happened to them last season, I feel like a lot of CJ Stroud struggles. 2 things. The offensive line kind of in disarray. He took a lot of sacks. Not all on the line, though, because sometimes he holds the ball a little bit too long.
They're never on the line, by the way, Breech.
Hey, I agree. The line always gets blamed for every sack, when it feels like only about 50% of the time they should actually be blamed. And then his receivers, they were all banged up. We obviously saw what happened to Tank Dell, unfortunate injury. Stephon Diggs tearing his ACL. Nico Collins missing multiple games due to a hamstring injury. So you're talking about CJ Stroud was missing his top 3 receivers. Of course, any quarterback.
Nico Collins, who is breaking records at that point in the season.
Exactly. So, yeah, I do think the Texans, as long as everyone is healthy, should be better, and as long as their new look line holds up.
I love that pick, and I root for a guy like CJ Stroud because another one of these dudes, you can't avert your gaze. You're just like so into watching CJ Stroud play football when he's doing it right. Okay, so you went Rams, so they're off my hot list. I got one team that I got a question mark about. I don't think I'm going to throw them in there. I'm going to surprise some people here with this next pick.
Love surprises.
I'm going to go with the Atlanta Falcons.
Ooh, that is a surprise.
So I'm obsessed with Michael Penix Jr. I don't get it. I think I need help. I think I need to see a doctor. But Michael Penix Jr. Might be the prescription that my doctor writes me, just more Michael Penix. This offense has the right archetype of superstar at the right spots. Okay, they've got variation at the receiver position. I love Drake London. Darnell Mooney is a guy that could be a star in this league. And at times last year, we saw him make fantastic catches. Bijan Robinson, there may be only one other guy in the league who I think you can put in that category physically. And he plays in Philadelphia, and he just won a Super Bowl. Michael Penix Jr. is a competitor. We watched him play last year against Washington in primetime, go toe-to-toe with the golden boy, Jaden Daniels. I want more of that. I got a taste of that Michael Penix offense in Atlanta, and I was like, I need more. And he's lefty, so everything's inverted, and I'm a lefty. I want to watch more of it. I think that they have a great year. I think Michael Penix Jr. wins some award. Give me the Falcons.
I love it. The lefty love, southpaw showing here. And fun fact, when Michael Penix and the Falcons played Tua and the Dolphins, I think it's in December, the first time 2 lefty quarterbacks have faced each other since, I think, 2006.
Wow.
Long time. You know what, though? I feel like a lot of pressure here is going to be on Zach Robinson, the offensive coordinator, because they do have the playmakers in Atlanta. You got to make it click. So you got to get that thing going. Yeah, definitely a surprise pick, but I don't think this is completely crazy. I think the argument against the Falcons is, hey, Michael Penix only has 3 games where we've gotten to see him, but he was fantastic in all those.
Ceiling pick.
Ceiling pick. I love it. The ceiling pick is the theme today. All right, I'm going to go top 15. Think we're going to get some hate mail from Green Bay if we don't take the Packers soon. So I'm going to take the Packers.
Yep.
All right, not because I feel like Packers fans will hate us if we don't, but I do think they are a top 15 offense. Look, we all know about Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs, and they finally went out and drafted a receiver in the first round for the first time since Kyle and I were teenagers. It was a miracle to see that Matthew Golden going there. And then they also took a receiver in the 3rd round. So it seems like they're serious about just kind of fixing that receiver room and trying to answer the question marks that are there, because we don't know if Jaden Reed is a true number 1 receiver. Christian Watson, obviously there, but deals with injuries, and Romeo Doubs. So adding 2 new receivers, I think could make this offense a lot better.
Okay, we're going to go one more pick before we hit a break. And you know what? I'm gonna get everybody charged up. All right, I'm gonna get you charged up to the boys out on the West Coast, Los Angeles Chargers. As an Oregon Duck and a Justin Herbert fan, I root for this guy. All right, and he's got a lot of hate mail over the years, but he's got a bully in town in Jim Harbaugh. We saw last year they were building a bully with that football team. I love the offensive tackles in Los Angeles. Joe Alt was a home run from day one. Was an ass kicker, alpha. Rashawn Slater is a great football player. And obviously it's going to come down to weapons. But I think that with this football team having an identity that they do, they're going to be able to move the ball at will on the ground. It'll open things up for Justin Herbert week in, week out. If this team can stay healthy, they'll be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And Najee Harris, that was a huge signing. They went out and drafted Amari Hampton. So they clearly plan to run the ball a lot, which is good because it's Ladd McConkey and Mike Williams. Those are your 2 which isn't bad, but that's probably why they're 16th in our rankings and not top 10.
Okay, well, we will see you guys after the break. Stick with us here, coming back for the second half.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.
All right, Breech, you're up. Second half of the draft.
Hey, you know what? Let's reverse the order. So now, like not snake draft, but now you get the first pick here to start off the second half.
Okay, with the first pick, I will take the Comeback Player of the Year award winner this coming season, Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay. Duval. I love this guy, Liam Cohen. Okay, he's just goofy and awkward enough for me to fall in love with him as a coach. And you know what, Trevor Lawrence, I'm not done with you yet. Okay, there's another act to be seen. And I've seen a lot of talk about this guy, Travis Hunter. I've seen off the field talk. I've seen on the field talk. I'm more concerned with the on the field talk. And the guy jumps off the tape when he's on the field. So finding a way to get this guy involved in your offense is going to be key. Obviously, they've got a phenom at the receiver position who just finished up his rookie season. With those two guys on the field, who are you going to guard? Who's going to get doubled? Who's going to have that cloud safety or corner behind him? And how can Trevor Lawrence make it happen? If Trevor Lawrence is healthy, I got this offense maybe playing higher than this ranking, but that's my pick, Breech.
Let me ask you a quick question, Kyle, about Travis Hunter. If he's playing, let's say, 40 snaps a game on defense, do you think that's going to impact his ability to run routes at full speed in a receiver? I just feel like when you're going both ways against college players, you're going against college players. Sure, you're facing a couple guys who will eventually be in the NFL. Well, you're in the NFL. Now you're facing an NFL player in every spot on both sides of the ball, which is just a huge jump. So is it realistic?
This league is driven by what you do on offense. If Travis Hunter is playing 40 snaps on defense and suffering on offense, the coach needs to be fired.
Or cut the defensive snaps down and just say.
I'll just say it that way. Cut the snaps down. I need this guy to be electric every time he's on the field offensively. And if he's not, we can't rob Peter to pay Paul, John.
I got it. That's offense sells tickets, man. That is the route. Let's see. We are at pick 18. All right. Look, this team went 14-3 last year. They haven't cracked our rankings yet. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, the big question mark is J.J. McCarthy any good? Nobody knows because we haven't seen him take a single regular season snap in the NFL. Got a couple small tastes of him in the preseason last season because he played one game. But look, you have Justin Jefferson around you. You have Aaron Jones around you. You're getting Christian Darrisaw back at left tackle. You stole two offensive linemen from the Colts who should make your offensive line better. So I think the Vikings are loaded. It's just a matter of how far can J.J. McCarthy take them. And I have no idea. This is a quarterback who's kind of hard to project what he's going to do. But I feel like he can at least play at the Sam Darnold level, probably. But I'm going to take the Vikings.
And which Sam Darnold level are you talking about? Are you talking about the ceiling or the floor? So, I mean, you might get a little bit of everything.
That's true.
With the next one, I'm going to go with another ceiling pick. And I saw a picture of Marvin Harrison Jr. at the podium a couple weeks ago. And if you were to cut his head off and put Myles Garrett's head on his body, you would say, yeah, that makes sense. Marvin Harrison Jr. has turned into like a freak show in the last 6 months from a physical standpoint. And this happens with players from first to second year, second to third year. Something happens to them physically. They get that grown man strength. Kyler Murray is as fun as anybody to watch play quarterback, okay? Not just because he's an outlier physically, because he's got such arm talent, because he's got the mobility. They need to find a way to get Marvin Harrison Jr. more involved in this offense. But I think that he is a guy that they are going to lean into heavier this year. Obviously, they got a great tight end. Their offensive line's tough. Their defense is going to be keep them in ball games. It all comes down to this offense. That's where I got them.
And I got a fun fact for the Cardinals pick. They play 13 games indoors this year. That is the most in the NFL. And if Kyler Murray starts all those games, would be the second most indoor starts by quarterback in NFL history. Look, if you can play a little faster when you're indoors. And like you said, Murray's electrifying. So, and this seems like it could be a good breakout season for Marvin Harrison Jr. because of that. All right, number 20. I'm going to go, look, I know Harry's back there.
Yeah.
Producer Harry just shedding tears, wondering when we're going to take his team and that we're doing this on purpose, that we talked on the phone an hour ago and we said, don't take the Dolphins. They don't deserve to be picked. I'll take the Dolphins. Somebody's got to do it. They still have Jalen Waddle. They still have Tyreek Hill. Who knows if Tyreek Hill will even be on the roster week one. He's on the roster now. We all have our question marks about Tua. This seems like a make or break season. Either this is it. You got to do something here. Win at least one playoff game. Prove that you belong. So I think this whole entire organization has a lot on the line this year, whether it's Mike McDaniel, whether it's Tua, whether it's Tyreek Hill. A lot of questions to be answered, but I will take the Dolphins at 20th.
So if something, knock on wood, if something were to happen to Tua, would it be yours or would it be Zach Wilson?
That's a good question. I think if it's early in the season, say September, probably Zach Wilson. But I think if it's later in the season, probably you put Ewers in there.
So here's my thing about this offense fitting Quinn Ewers like a glove. Not top end arm strength, by no means top end arm strength, but the ability to see and distribute the football, see defense, distribute the football, be on time. I think that's something Quinn Ewers could do for Mike McDaniel. And Zach Wilson, obviously, it's like, whoa, do you want to go downtown Julie Brown? I could do that. So they got two different flavors laying in wait. For the next pick, I'm going to go with an offense that I think has the best offensive line in football. And they've got a young quarterback who also went to the University of Oregon. He's a man of Oregon. The Denver Broncos. I love the way that they play the game of football. And they beat the hell out of people up front. Their quarterback has just discovered that he's more mobile than he could ever imagine. At the end of the season, we saw a lot of Bo Nix moving around on the edges. And, they're only going to get better. In year two of the Sean Payton administration, this is a team that can vie for the AFC West. And I think that week in, week out, they're a stock you can buy in on because they've got an offensive line. They can run the football. They invested in the draft in the running back room. Yeah, man, I think they could probably be better than this.
Yeah, and I think you were totally right. They just bully people. That's how Sean Payton wants to run his offense. And the Bo Nix thing, it really was like early in the season. He's thinking, I can't take off because I'm not sure I can outrun these NFL guys.
He can't.
At some point, he realized he could, and he's like, all right, well, I'm going to start taking off more often. And I love that they added Evan Ingram because there were just no tight ends in their offense catching passes last year. So I think that will make their offense a lot better. 22 overall.
We're getting into Aaron Rodgers territory now.
We started the show talking about Aaron Rodgers, and we're going to take him off the board here. Look, we talked about it at the top. It's just you don't know what Aaron Rodgers has left in the tank, but if he's just half of what Aaron Rodgers can be, that's still pretty good. He's throwing DK Metcalf. Doesn't have a lot of other targets to go to. You'd probably like to see them get another number two guy. I know they have Robert Woods. Maybe don't trade George Pickens. And then you got rid of Najee Harris. So now Jaylen Warren's taking over that number one back spot, which is good because Jaylen Warren's talented. But Najee Harris was getting over 250 carries last year. Warren's never had more than 150 carries in a season in his career. So he's going to be able to take that kind of beating. So it feels like they'll go to a running back by committee. They drafted Caleb Johnson. They have Kenneth Gainwell. So this could be a good offense. This could be a surprise offense, but I think for now, this feels about right at 22, yeah.
All right, so I was going to say it's Aaron Rodgers territory. That makes sense. Now we've entered kind of like hunch territory. Like who's gonna be better than we think? Because there's this group at the bottom here, or past the middle, I will say, that is kind of like it's a war of attrition. I think a group that's going to punch up all year is going to be the Las Vegas Raiders. And I talked about the offensive line being obviously something you want your offense to be predicated on. I love Jackson Powers-Johnson in the middle for the Raiders. I love Colton Miller at left tackle. You've got Chip Kelly coming in as the offensive coordinator. You've got new blood in there with an old man and Pete Carroll. Geno Smith is an immediate upgrade, and they've been looking for a jersey to buy that is a starting quarterback in Las Vegas for a while. Well, they got one with Geno Smith. Ashton Genty, love the draft pick. I think there's some guys who are meant to be Raiders. He is one. 2 tight end formations. Brock Bowers is the best tight end in football. You got a lot of good stuff going on there in Las Vegas. I think that they take the spot at 23, 24. Where are we?
Yeah, 23.
23. Lucky 23.
Yeah, and look, they have Raheem Mostert back there too, who led the NFL in touchdown runs just 2 years ago in 2023. And he's getting older, but now he can just be your home run threat because you have Jetty there to be your every down guy. I think the Raiders could definitely be dangerous. I like it. 24.
How good do you like Bryce Young?
Yeah, that's kind of where we are. I'm kind of weighing my Drake May, Bryce Young, Sam Darnold. That's, you know what though? I'm gonna go Drake May. I liked what I saw from him last season, and so I'm gonna go Patriots. But this is 100% based on what I think of Drake May. I'm not gonna penalize the Patriots offense because Stephon Diggs was on a boat party that he probably shouldn't have been on, or at least not letting the video get out. And so you look at the team at receiver. If Diggs is healthy, yeah, they have a receiver. But if he's not healthy or not 100% when the season starts, I'm not sure who Drake May is throwing to. Matt Collins, that's not a number one guy. You look at their running back situation. Ramondre Stevenson is good, but there's just a lot of question marks here. The offensive line, obviously, they signed Garrett Bradbury. That is why the Patriots are so low. But I love Drake May, man. I think he can be really good.
I love Drake May too. I'm obsessed with Mike Vrabel.
I'll
say this about the Stephon Diggs thing, and I haven't really spoken about it or tweeted about it or anything. You don't go and do stuff like that unless you're really feeling yourself as a player, and you're not feeling yourself as a player unless you're healthy. I think Stephon Diggs is a big year. That's all.
I like that.
That's all I'm going to say about Stephon Diggs. So you said Patriots. I'm going to go Panthers. I love T-Mac. I think him and Bryce Young are going to be a lot of fun to watch. They've invested in this offensive line. My guy Brant Tillis is there. He was in Kansas City. Now he's like the president of football operations there. I like that they got some smart minds at the top. And yeah, Bryce Young, his redemption arc was fun to watch. Give me the Panthers.
Yeah, it's just wild how getting benched just totally sparked him. Or maybe it was just hanging out with Andy Dalton for a few months, and he's like, you know what? I want to win a Super Bowl. I want Andy Dalton's career. I'll go to 5 playoff games and be good. All right, let's do. I'm an Andy Dalton homer for those who don't know. As a Bengals homer, you're naturally an Andrew Gregory Dalton homer. All right, 26. Okay, you know what? We mentioned the 3 quarterbacks: Drake May, Bryce Young, Sam Darnold. So I'll go ahead and take Sam Darnold off the board. Here's my biggest question mark with the Seattle Seahawks. Yes, Darnold was awesome last year, but he was literally in a perfect system for him to thrive. Yes, indoors. You have a great offensive play coach or head coach in Kevin O'Connell. You have Justin Jefferson. You have Jordan Addison. So you were just absolutely loaded. Now you're going to a spot where you hope Cooper Kupp still has something in the tank. You're hoping Marquez Valdes-Scantling is still looking good. And yes, you have Jackson Smith and Jigba, who had a great season last year. And I think he is going to be really good. But I think he is your one guy that you can absolutely trust. And then, look, I'll leave this to you. The offensive line in Seattle leaves a lot to be desired. And if Sam Darnold is under pressure, the numbers have shown he's not very good under pressure. So if that's something he's dealing with all year, he's going to take a huge step back. So I'm going to we got the Seahawks. What is this at 26th?
So the Seahawks, they've got a new offensive coordinator. And this offensive coordinator comes from a place called New Orleans, correct? And when he was in New Orleans, they like to run the football. And after they ran the football, they threw the football a mile down the field to a receiver. Do you remember this offense? Okay. Ring any bells, run the football, pound them up front, get the luxury of throwing it behind enemy lines. They don't have a guy who can run behind enemy lines, the Seahawks. They don't have the offensive line in the run game that the New Orleans Saints had when Clint Kubiak became the hot, sexy commodity. There's a lot of question marks for me, which is why they're at this part of the list. But it's one of those groups where, if Kupp's got some juice, if Sam Darnold is a guy, this group could be fun because they're going to play good defense. And we've seen Kubiak can get it right on offense. But those are some of the things that are in my mind about this team. I am going to go with a guy that I enjoy rooting for. This is also a theme from the New York Jets.
Ooh.
His name is Justin Fields. And he's an athlete. He's a horse. He's an absolute horse. He may not be the best quarterback on the field week in, week out, but he might be the biggest competitor on the field week in, week out. And I think that with a guy like Aaron Glenn at the helm in New York, it's going to be a whole lot of competitive juices and physicality. And they get that with their quarterback week in, week out. like I said, they're not going to break any records offensively, but they're going to be fun to watch. And Justin Fields is the unquestioned leader there.
Yeah, he went 4-2 as a starter in Pittsburgh last year. See if that can carry over. And he doesn't have to worry about getting benched for Russell Wilson in New York. Speaking of Russell Wilson, I'll go ahead and stick in the Big Apple and take the Giants at 28th overall. Look, I have no idea if Russell Wilson has anything left in the tank at all. We've seen him the past few years. He was better in Pittsburgh than he was in Denver, which you definitely feel good about. And now that he has an offensive-minded head coach and Brian Daboll, maybe he'll be able to unlock something that these other coaches haven't, even Sean Payton. But with the Giants, you look at the rest of their offense. Malik Neighbors is an absolute stud, which is why I do a little bit like the Giants offense. Clearly don't love them because they're down this low. Tyrone Tracy Jr. had a huge season, came along.
Juice.
Yeah. Neighbors and Tracy, I mean, right there. So all you need is a competent quarterback, which I think Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston or maybe even Jackson Dart, throw one of those guys back there.
All flavors of quarterback there.
Yeah, they have everything you could ever want. Use all three of them every game. That's what they should do. So Giants at 28th.
Okay. One guy I hope is better than he was last year, who definitely got some help at the tight end position, which is supposed to go, hand in glove with quarterbacks. That's Anthony Richardson. If Anthony Richardson and the Indianapolis Colts can get a little bit better, boy, oh boy, they're going to be fun to watch, because I don't know if there's anybody more physically gifted at the quarterback position than Anthony Richardson. He can throw the ball off his back foot 75 yards. He can outflank defensive ends, blitzing linebackers. He can run them clean over like Josh Allen. But can he hit an open target with his feet set? Can he get rid of the ball on time? These are the things Colts fans want to see. These are the things I want to see, which is why they're so low down this list.
Yeah, and heck, Daniel Jones might end up being the quarterback if Anthony Richardson.
And wouldn't that be fun?
Battling injuries and dealing with another shoulder issue, and you just never know. It'll be crazy. Where are we? We only have 3 picks left here, Kyle. We only have 3 picks left. I'm just going to go ceiling. I'm going to take the rookie quarterback. I'm going to take the Tennessee Titans. Cam Ward, number 1 overall. Well, this far down, I'm going to put my eggs in the Cam Ward basket. Look, they have Calvin Ridley. They have an okay offensive line. They went out. You have Tony Pollard in his second year there. I'm not making an argument this is a great offense. I'm saying they're 30th. So I would love to see Cam Ward thrive. And I think the NFL is better whenever your top pick quarterbacks play well. So Brian Callahan obviously had some time in Cincinnati. He was there when the Bengals took Joe Burrow number 1 overall. So we know what it's like, to what you have to do to kind of get that top pick to move along and create an offense around them. So I'll take the Titans at 30th.
I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns at 31. I really like their coach. I really love their fans. And that's really about all I got to say about that. And I would like to see Shedeur Sanders at some point get some snaps in the regular season, because I want to see, I want to see what he's got. I want to see what the young man's got.
Yeah, let's just close it out here. New Orleans Saints. Look, if you're having a QB competition between a second-round rookie, Spencer Rattler, and Jay Kaner, the rookie Tyler Shuck, it is. That's it. That's why you are last place here. It doesn't matter what else you have in your team. You have a huge quarterback problem. And I don't feel like the Saints are going to win many games this year.
There were some days in Chicago where we'd have some struggles offensively, and Matt Nagy would come in and take some snaps and throw the football around. I wonder if Kellen Moore's going to have any need to do that.
And the players are going to be like, can you still play? Can he coach?
Dude, Nagy would throw it, and I'd be like, damn, that's impressive. Well, you know what, Breech? That was impressive by you today. A lot of fun getting 1 through 32 here on the first round, or the only round, of the NFL offensive draft. Thanks so much. I know you got to run. Big, important things. Have a great week. It's great seeing you. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me,
We'll see you guys next time on Pushing the Pile. Wednesday, I got Jonathan Jones, so stay tuned. I'm going to tweet out a mailbag tweet. Peace.